Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamualaikum. My name is MAF551. So I will present about definition of budgeting system. First is a thorough plan outlining an organization's running operation for a certain future time period with financial effect or a plan of future activities having monetary impacts. Second is a financial model used to forecast future operation. Third is a critical component of a company's planning and control system. Fourth, an important method of giving information to managers so as to assist them in managing resources and creating value. Next is short-term planning with a usual time horizon of 1 year is considered. And lastly, budgeting is the process of allocating finances and comparing actual performance to the budgeted performance. Okay, next there are six purposes of budget. First is annual operation planning. Second is plan communication to the various responsibility center managers. Third is activity management. Fourth is coordinating the action of the organization, many section and ensuring that they are in harmony with one another. Fifth is motivating managers to strive for organizational success. And lastly, six, manager performance is being evaluated.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Marha and I will continue with the budgeting process and the key budget factor. The budgeting process consists of 8 steps that must be followed in order to prepare and implementing budgets. The steps are: number 1, to communicate the details about the process to those who are responsible for preparing the budgets. The details may consist of responsibilities, expectations, and deadlines. The second step is to determine the key budget factor. Only after that we will prepare the sales budget. So the step number 4 is the initial preparation of budget. This budget will then be negotiated with the higher management in step number 5. Next, the budget will be sent to the finance committee as well as the other appropriate staff and board committees for coordination and review. If everything is approved, therefore it reaches step number 7, which is the final acceptance. And lastly, there will be ongoing reviews of the budget where the budget will be updated and revised with time. Notice that in the second step of the budgeting process, I mentioned the word key budget factor. Now, what is a key budget factor? So actually, the key budget factor, or also known as a principal budget factor, is a limiting factor that caused by the short supply of the key resources. Some examples of key resources include cash, raw materials, and labor. Due to this limitation, it is very important for us to early identify the key budget factor so that the other budget can be linked to it.
There are two types of forecasting techniques, which is quantitative and qualitative forecasting method. Qualitative method consists four types of forecasting, which called as Delphi method, market survey, executive opinion, and sales force competition. Meanwhile, quantitative method only consists two types, which is not other than time series models and associative models. Let's go to the quantitative method first. Delphi method is a discussion among experts on a specific problem or situation, and these involved in the debate agrees on. An argument or brainstorming session is held. Next one is market survey. Customer interviews and surveys are conducted to better understand the customer tasks and to identify trends in order to deliver the right product or service in response to the changing needs of the customer. The third one is executive opinion. The executive may or may not be subject matter experts, but they have the experience to understand the problem or situation and devise a forecasting method that will yield the best possible results. Last but not least, sales force composite. The salesperson knowledge and intuition help to ascertain the customer's needs and project sales in the specific area or region that has been given to them. This information is essential for predicting customer needs because it enables businesses to adjust their operations accordingly and anticipate their sales volumes. As I said just now, quantitative method only consists two types, which is time series models and also associative models. In time series models look at historical data and identify patterns in the past data to arrive at one point in the future based on the historical values. Since the historical data has a pattern on it, it becomes evident that the data in the future should also have a pattern. And this method looks at cracking the pattern in the future so that There is very little deviance from the actual calculations and the outcomes in the real world.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Faris and I will explain about the technique of budgeting. So basically there are four techniques of budgeting and one of the technique is rolling budgeting. What is rolling budgeting? So rolling budgeting is a budget that continuously updated by adding a further budget period. When the earlier budget period is expired, it can be particularly useful when future events cannot be forecast reliably, which means it is frequently prepared when there is an element of risk and uncertainty, and the future events cannot be forecast reliably. The benefits of running budget is that the company's management will always have a budget that looks forward for one full year. There are several advantages and disadvantages as stated on slide. For the advantages of running budget, budgets will be more realistic and achievable since they are continuously revised to reflect changing circumstances. And then the annual disruption associated with the preparation of annual budget is removed. The last one is the pressure is stress placed on managers to achieve unrealistic budget targets are eased. Meanwhile, for the disadvantages is the preparing of rolling budget will take more time, effort, and it will cost more money. There will be a greater workload on managers and additional staff may be required. Last but not least, managers may not devote sufficient time in preparing budgets. Next, I will talk about incremental budgeting and some of the pros and cons of using this type of budgeting. For incremental budgeting, the previous year's budget will be taken as a base. Some adjustments will be made to the existing budgets depending upon the changes that are expected to occur. For your information, it is the most frequently used budgeting technique as it is easy and appealing kind of method. So as you can see on slide, there are several advantages and disadvantages. And for the advantages of incremental budgeting, it is a simple and very cheap method to use in preparing a budget. And then it is suitable in a stable situation where there is not much change in the environment. And last but not least, it is also very practical in predicting certain expenses such as telephone expenses, depreciation, or rental. Meanwhile, for the disadvantages, it is assumed that the previous and current inefficiencies may be continuous and would carry on. Second one, it is not suitable for volatile and changing situations. And last but not least, the budget prepared for each activity may not be justified.
Thank you Faris for the explanation of other technique of budgeting. My name is Muhammad Akil. So the next technique of budgeting is zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is commonly used in a business. So what is a zero-based budgeting? Zero-based budgeting is preparing the budget from the scratch. There is zero-based, whereas all the transaction and the production element are evaluated when budget is about to drawn up. Zero-based budgeting promotes efficiency with operation. Manager must be able to justify every single expenses. The next is there's an advantage and disadvantage in zero-based budgeting. The first advantage is help to identify any efficiency. The second is wasteful on spending activities can be reduced. And the third is focus further rather than the past. The disadvantage of the zero-based budgeting, the first one is time and costly to prepare zero-based budgeting. Second, manager tend to solve short-term problems. And lastly, management skill still lacking. The next technique of budgeting is activity-based budgeting. What is activity-based budgeting? It's a system for researching, recording, and analyzing the activities that lead to the cost in a company or business. This method works by distributing costs according to the activities the company carries out and are used in the cost accounting. The basis of activity-based budgeting is that the company activities are the one consuming resources and originating costs. There's an advantage and disadvantage of activity-based costing. First advantage is greater focus and control on understanding overhead. Second, better decision making as costs will be more accurate.
Thank you,
Six
Akil, for your
disadvantage. The
explanation.
first
Hi, it's me
disadvantage
again, Mehmet
is
Zaidil.
extra time
So I
and
will
effort to
continue
establish the
about
system
topic 2,
and
budgetary
expensive.
control. First, I
Second, many
will talk
overhead are
about
not
feed forward.
controllable.
Okay, what is feed forward? Feed forward are prediction are made about what the outputs will be in the future. Error also can be predicted and avoided. Target costing is also referred to as feed-forward control system. Okay, next is feedback. Feedback is the procedure collect data on actual result and compare it to control data such as plan, budget, or standard. Deviation from the control data will result in feedback to bring real outcome back in line with the plan, such as positive or negative feedback.
Motivational, behavioral, and ethical issues of budgeting. Motivation is important in driving the employee's attitude. A demotivated employee may react with behavioral issues such as frequent absence, lateness, and laziness, which then leads to poor performance in the organization. If the target is set too easy, it will not encourage the efficiency, whereas a target set too high will affect the morale of employees. Therefore, it is very crucial for the budget to be set by managers at all levels with full commitment and motivation to produce a realistic budget and prevent from these issues.
However, budgeting also have their own limitations. Firstly, is inaccuracy, which is based on a lot of assumption, trends, market scenarios, and also predictions. Next one is costly. This is because budgeting will require an additional personnel and separate departments, and also a significant effort is required. Next one is excessive spending. Some managers will consider that their department's budget must be fully utilized. Manipulation scope. This will experience a manager that might purposefully increase the cost while attempting to lower the revenue targets that need to be set in the budget. Next one is rigidity, which gives a definition of any change in the market situation does not generally evoke the attention of the management to make any drastic change in the strategy due to budget